The orchard lay quiet beneath a merciless sun, its apple trees standing like rows of watchful sentries before the palace. Cicadas droned, and in the distance the city of Aija simmered, restless with rumour. The Sultan walked his stallion slowly between the trunks. His eyes were hard, for only days before he had uncovered a plot. His own advisor, the man he had trusted most, whispered treason in secret halls and courtyards, promising the throne to others if they would join his cause. Now the advisor sat on a low stone in the shade, scribbling idly as if nothing weighed on him. When the Sultan stopped, the man rose and fell into step beside him. "Come," the Sultan said, voice flat as iron. "Walk with me in the apple orchard." They passed between trees heavy with fruit, their branches swaying like the arms of silent witnesses. At last they came to a gnarled tree whose boughs sagged low with apples striped red and gold. The Sultan settled onto a root and beckoned the advisor to sit. "Want to wager?" he asked. The advisor smiled with practiced ease, though sweat already beaded his brow. "On what, my Sultan?" The Sultan's eyes glittered. "We tell stories. If mine amazes you more, you kneel, and I step upon your back to pluck 2 apples for us to share. If yours amazes me, you shall step upon mine." A pause. The advisor bowed slightly. "Then you begin?" The Sultan leaned forward, his voice dropping into the cadence of a tale. The Sultan's story. "Long before the weight of this crown bent my neck, I was no ruler. I was Karim, a cloth merchant in the bustling markets of Aija. By day the air was thick with saffron and smoke, and I bartered silks from the east, linens from the river clans. My stall was small but honest, and at dusk, when the streets thinned and the storytellers' voices faded, I would buy my supper from a woman who sold fruit and vegetables. She was middle-aged, her hands rough from toil, her smile sharp as a blade. One evening, as I chose apples from her basket, she looked into my eyes and said, 'Marry me, Karim.' And her tone was not a request but a command. I agreed as though enchanted. On our wedding night she spoke a single rule. 'When you return from the market each day, I will set your meal before you with a cup of juice. You will eat, drink, and go to sleep. Swear it, and I will be yours.' I swore it. What harm in food and drink, I thought. For years I lived under this rhythm. My belly was full, my stall prospered, and though no children came, my home was rich with rugs, lamps, and laughter. But always the same: food, juice, sleep. At last, suspicion gnawed at me. Why was my sleep so heavy, dreamless as death? Why did she never rise until dawn? One night I poured the juice away, pushed aside the food, and lay still as stone. When her hand brushed mine, I did not stir. I watched her cloak herself in rags, slip from our door, and vanish into the streets. I followed, past the silent market stalls, through the city gates, to the graveyard where the moon washed the stones pale. There she shed her disguise. Her skin sagged, her teeth lengthened, her body bent into the form of a withered witch. I watched in horror as she clawed open graves, dragging out bones and rotting flesh, which she devoured with glee. A sound escaped my throat, a gasp, a prayer I do not know. She turned, her eyes blazing like coals. Words older than the desert poured from her lips. The world lurched, and when I looked down, my hands were hooves. My voice was gone. I was a horse. For years I bore her burdens. She rode me across the sands, lashed me when I faltered, tethered me in the sun while she shopped in the markets. My soul wept, but no one heard. Until one day, when she tied me outside a spice shop, a stranger approached. His eyes were black as obsidian, and he peered into mine as if he could see through flesh and bone. "You are not what you seem," he whispered. "You are bound by sorcery. When the witch returns, speak these words." He taught me a phrase that burned like fire, then vanished into the crowd. When she returned and tugged my reins, I spoke the words. At once, the spell broke. My body shuddered and changed, and I stood a man again. She shrieked, collapsing into the form of a horse, braying and thrashing, trapped in the shape she had condemned me to endure. The Sultan's eyes gleamed as his tale ended, his voice heavy with satisfaction. Back to the orchard. "Isn't that an amazing story?" he asked, his smile as sharp as the dagger hidden at his belt. The advisor forced a chuckle. "It is clever, my Sultan, but surely it is only a tale." The Sultan turned to his black mare. "Is it true, old hag?" The horse lowered its head in a solemn nod. The advisor's confidence faltered. Still he straightened and drew a careful breath. "Then it is my turn, my lord. Listen well, for my tale will leave you shaken." He began, voice weaving with false calm. "Once, long ago, there was a mighty king who trusted a serpent at his breast. The serpent whispered, 'I serve you, I guide you,' but its fangs dripped poison. And when the king was most blind, the serpent struck. The Sultan's boot pressed down on his shoulder, forcing him to his knees. The advisor stammered, 'My Sultan, let me finish.' But the Sultan drew his emerald-hilted dagger, leaned low and whispered, 'Your story ends here.' With a single merciless thrust, the blade slid between the advisor's ribs. Poison blackened his veins as he gasped, wide-eyed with horror. 'You thought to overthrow me with stories and plots,' the Sultan hissed. 'But betrayal is no tale. It is truth, and truth is mine to write.' The advisor crumpled, blood soaking the roots of the apple tree. His story died half-spoken, unfinished, like a candle snuffed mid-word. Above them, the apples swayed gently in the breeze, heavy with sweetness, untouched by death. The Sultan plucked one, bit deep, and chewed slowly as the orchard fell silent again.